Welcome back, everybody, to part two with Desiree Holmes Scherini. We were talking last time about emotions and emotional intelligence and how to be able to tap into our emotional feelings. And what we wanted to do today was talk a little further and talk about like things like confidence and how you release negative energies from your system, which can be a memory, it can be cellular, it can be emotional, spiritual, physical. The source doesn't really matter. It's the ability to identify it that does. So if we can start, Desiree, I'd like to ask you, how important is confidence in people, that they have confidence in themselves?
And as a hypnotherapist, because I think it's just because I do it, not just because I do it, but it's an amazing modality because belief, what you believe, so totally impacts. So confidence, if someone believes they can, whatever it is, it she makes a huge difference in their success.
Yes.
So what we believe absolutely impacts. And also with neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, if anyone's familiar with that, that's listening. It's about I really focus on the words we use.
Yes.
And so perhaps many people have heard, if you say you can't, you can't. If you say you can, you can. You're more likely to. But if you say you can't, that's okay, going nowhere.
Yes, and I've seen that too. And isn't it in the Bible, all things you ask for in prayer, believing you shall receive? So if
Yeah.
you don't think you're deserving, or it can't be done, it's not going to manifest, because that's my understanding of when you look at like the laptop, or you look at a television, or you look at a cell phone, that's a scrying mirror. So when we're focused on so much on the electronics, we're taking in their creation instead of creating it for ourselves in front of our eyes, as if we had our own television screen there, and imagining and imaging what we want. So it's so powerful what you're saying, and the confidence to know that we can do this. I think that's been one of the biggest obstacles humanity has faced, that we've been told we can't, we got to do this, we've got to do this, you've got to go to school, you've got to graduate with this. You like, we're always told what to do instead of letting ourselves open ourselves up.
It's an excellent analogy about when the TV's on and you're being programmed with the television programs.
Totally.
But we, before we were on, we were talking about synchronicities that I brought up with you. Here's one more. This is why I'm smiling. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is one of those days. Boom, boom, boom. I was laying in bed last night, and I have a TV on the wall. And I was laying in bed, and I actually own a scrying mirror, a
Yes,
black
so do I.
obsidian one. And I was laying in bed, and the TV was off, and I looked at it, and I was just staring at it. And I thought, oh, you know, a blank TV screen in a darkened room makes an excellent scrying mirror. I should use that because it's so large. And so it's, where where in the world would we just come up with, you mentioned, TV screen being a scrying mirror, and just last night I had that an experience. Yes. So yes, I agree with you. A blank TV screen does. And for people that don't know what scrying is a way of either seeing information from within or without, depending on your intention. It's almost like a crystal ball. Okay, that might make more sense to a lot of people. Looking in there and seeing what images come to you, and using that information. That's what scrying is.
It's like a divination tool. And I don't think I said it with you on this part two, but we are talking about it before. But when you're creating it, you create an image in front of your eyes, because whoever owns the creation controls whoever's observing it. So we are our own creators. So knowing what we want. And so when I have, if I'm working with a client and trying to clear something, I have them put everything in front of their eyes, not behind the third eye, not in the third eye, not behind the eyeballs, but out here. And it doesn't matter if it was trauma they've had to get rid of, something, a bad memory. It doesn't matter what it is, or the pattern of, let's say, if it's betrayal or disrespect. It doesn't matter what it is. I just put all those people up there in that image, okay, and then I show them how to clear it. But it's so powerful. So I want to get to the point we stop getting over things in life, that we start calling in what we want, that those traumas don't have quite the hold on people that they used to. Yeah, bad things happen to everybody. It's designed that way to keep us down. Everybody experiences it.
Yeah.
But once you
And
realize and take that out of your cellular memory, then you can go into the positives, right?
what you were just describing is a practice I use, combining that NLP practice while someone's under hypnosis. I will have them create that, picture in picture
Very
TVs.
nice.
The one that's up there, I put up what you have been experiencing that you'd like to change, and have that fade away while what they
Yes.
desire grows bigger and bigger. And so even the listeners can think about this, like, do this on your own. Like you say, sit there and put what you don't desire that you want out of your life, picture it just fading away, and what you do desire just fills up that screen in bright, beautiful
Yes.
color, and go on with your day.
Yes.
And once we get back to that confidence and believe
Yes.
that this is, coming, feel that here we can get into that heart thing. And on the first, conversation we
You.
had here, that believing, that letting your heart feel the positive feeling of it already being true. And
Yes.
so even if someone doubts it's going to be true, oh, that's not going to work. This is never going to happen. Okay. You start working on eliminating that. But even just choosing the better feeling, isn't that nicer than choosing the feeling of defeat, betrayal? It's never going to work. So
Yes.
even if you think it's not going to work, why not just give yourself a few times a day where you go, it's working. This
It's
is
working.
great. And this is great for your body. You talked about cellular memory. Cellular memory is like held in our emotions are translated to every part of our body. Every cell in our body remembers, trauma, like you said. It's in there. And we can do that thing, like erase that screen and fill up that picture with our feelings, our emotions. Release those feelings of doubt, fear, and defeat, and fill it up with, like, everything's
What does success
awesome.
feel like? What do you want? So it depends on what you want, but what does success feel like? What does it smell like? What does it, if you want to see yourself in a successful event, maybe you're speaking at an event, see yourself in the clothes you're wearing on the
Yes,
stage, see the people wanting to hear what you're saying, like put into the details, I guess is what I'm saying. Put in the details of it as you're bringing it in. And that's what I think makes a difference. If you're celebrating something, see the celebration party afterwards, like,
exactly.
right? Build it up.
And
And
it
that's
just
the way.
feels better to feel good, doesn't it? So why, people, we tend to often choose a negative feeling, and to recognize we have a choice.
Yes.
We can choose a better feeling.
And that's part
And
of
sure,
programming.
things happen. Yes, things happen. We break a leg, we lose a job, or whatever. Things do happen, but you don't have to stay stuck in that negative feeling. I'll give a personal example. Anytime something happens, things have happened. And I'm finding that over the years, over time, with this practice of practicing, making the effort to choose a more positive feeling and consider what are this negative thing I would label as negative happen. What am I gaining from this? You got to go the 180. Okay,
Totally.
what opportunities did this open up? What did I get out of this? What learning experience did I have, even if it was a difficult learning experience? And choose to find the silver lining, the positive. And then from that, choose, even when something negative is happening, like, oh, I don't like this, say, okay, something's coming, and maybe I don't know what it is right now. And maybe I will never know in this lifetime, because I also believe in reincarnation. But there's something that I'm gaining from this, and I'm going to just allow, I'm going to do everything I can to create the reality I want. And then it's that allowing thing. Is then I'm going to say, okay, and now I'm just going to choose to be, okay,
Yes.
it's all
Well,
good. Yeah.
and let go of the outcome is what I'm hearing you're saying. And what is her name? Marie Sheldon? I can't remember her
Yeah,
name.
Marie
Well,
Sheldon.
yes. And her saying, is this or something better?
That's what I always say. And I
Yes.
will, when someone's, when I'm working with someone on manifesting, and sometimes somebody gets stuck on a particular outcome, a woman or a man, it has to be them. It has to be this job. It has to be that house.
Doesn't
And
work that way.
I say, just phrase it as, if not that, then something better.
Yes.
When we are saying, and send it out into the universe, to God, to source, whatever, whatever word, whatever way you like to phrase it for yourself, what works for you. And if you want to, it's prayer. I call intention prayer. It's,
Same.
to me, it's the same thing. Some people say, well, that's, woo woo. I'm okay. It's prayer. Do you believe in prayer? Do you believe in God? Same thing. I'm not sure I have completely can say I agree with absolutely everything he said, but I've been listening to a lot of Neville Goddard,
Okay. Haven't
which
heard that one.
you would love Neville Goddard if you don't know him. He was, I think, from the 40s, 50s, 60s, maybe. But he is excellent at reframing what the Bible had to tell us. Because
Interesting.
for a long time I was like, oh, Bible, Bible, because I organized religion I have a issue with because of some of the control.
Yes.
However, faith, I'm all about.
Yes.
Faith, uh, love of that wonderful positive energy. I'm like a big fan of Jesus, right? It's not like I don't agree. And so he reframes a lot of what's said in the Bible and what Jesus was telling people based on, say, if you believe, or he says, it's not me, it's in you. He told
Yes.
people exactly what we're talking about here. He says, it's not me, it's in, you have what
We
I
all
have.
have it. The
Yes,
God
he told
spark.
everybody that, but somehow some organized religions will say, no, 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 you got to come through us to reach that. Jesus said, no, you have it. You can go straight from you to your communication, to your desires to be met.
Yes. And it's
Um,
interesting that you're saying that. 2 points. One, look at all of, I'm going to say the Western economy has been built on the middleman. They don't teach you about finance, so you need to go to a financial planner.
yeah,
Religion, you have to go through. We're not going to give you all the information. You have to go through a church. And you think of the First Nations people, they go directly up to Creator. That's what they call it. It's
yeah,
all the same energy, right? But
yeah,
it's just interesting. The education, you want an education, you want a job, you have to go through the way we teach this job so that you have this skill. But I've talked to many people in different fields of employment, and they do what they do, but they don't know why they do it. Well, why are you doing that? And they give you an answer, and it's like, well, what does that mean? And then finally they go, I just do what I'm told. So
right.
this is, yeah, we
And
don't want
that's
that
terrifying.
anymore.
People that just do what they're told. Um, and and this takes us back to having the emotional intelligence.
Yes,
If are you thinking with your the intelligence of feeling and
like an
a
innate knowing.
balance,
Yeah.
yes, an inner knowing of what's right and what's wrong, and the way people treat each other. um they're going from like the dollar signs or the power or that ego side we mentioned in conversation. It's like, what do I want and how am I going to get it from everybody else,
Yeah,
instead of the
that's the training.
interrelated, like, win-win. Like, how can I be of service? How can they be of service? How can we communicate and work together and open up so that everybody has.
Everybody wins.
Yes.
Are you following Ed Dowd?
No, I'm not.
Cause unknown. He was writing about what happened in 21 and all the increase in deaths. Like he said, between I think he said 18 and 44, there's a 40% increase in death, which
Yeah,
means
I
help
heard
wanted
this.
signs are everywhere. Jobs aren't being filled. But he
Yes.
also talked about he was I'm not going to say a hedge fund manager, but he was a manager of big money, worked at BlackRock. But being that I worked in finance, I get what he's saying, even though I wasn't at that level. I was more of a person talking to the buyer, the consumer across the table. But he was talking about this, and he was saying that what's happened with a lot of these companies, even though he's given great information, I think he's testified at the Senate in the US or Congress. He goes, nobody's calling me. He goes, and we did a study on mortuaries. And he goes, and they're all excited because their share price is up because so many people are dying.
Yes.
So
I
intention.
actually thought maybe I should invest, you know. It's sad, but I'm like,
But I've
Yeah.
had people say the same about Pfizer, that the teacher's pension in Ontario has gone up, and somebody said, yeah, but they've invested in Pfizer. You guys realize that this is going to affect everybody. So where I'm going with this is people's intentions. It matters what our intentions are and what we want to create. It also matters what other intentions are. I look at it that the macro interferes and interacts with the micro, and the micro with the macro.
Yep.
So if we want to keep our intentions as pure as possible and cause no harm, we might want something, but this is causing harm to another, then maybe that's not what you should want, because at the end of the day, we all live with our choices. And what I think is coming down is we're starting to see that some people don't care. It's all about this. So he would go into company meetings as a manager, looking to hear what the company structure was to decide if he was going to invest client money or his own money. This is my understanding of what he did. And he goes, this is their mentality right now. They don't care. So that's all those big agencies. They don't care because now they don't want anybody to know what they did. Like it's just, so this is a moral crisis. But what I like about what you're saying is you're showing us, and we're talking the same things, but we're talking about how to bring things in that everybody can win. We don't need to do that competition anymore, or have to beat the next guy down in sports, or get better grades so you get the scholarship. We don't need to do that if we knew how to turn on our own internal hardware. That's what I'm getting from what you're saying. That we want everybody to win. And it's not that we're socialists. Like, I want to put that out there.
And I'm not a socialist. Yeah.
No.
You know, what's interesting about what you're saying, which kind of, brings us back to the idea of confidence and belief. So for, like, say, clients, sometimes we get, there has to be a balance, right? There has to be a balance of desiring for yourself as well as not infringing upon others.
Yes.
Okay. There has to be a balance, because some people will think, oh, well, I'm a good person and I don't want to hurt anybody. So they end up being taken advantage of. They end up being the ones that these others who don't care, who are just in for themselves, will take advantage, and they end up hurting themselves. So yeah, being a good person, being loving, being wanting others to do well, and means you need to do well too. There's that whole thing about put on your own air mask first. Okay. Charity starts at home.
So this is also what I consider part of the programming. We've all been taught to be nice, be nice, be nice. And 2015, they introduced the sex ed curriculum in Ontario, which I just went through somebody's blog, and they were mocking the parents. Then they had what do they call it? Twisted Fister was one of the drag queens. Like they're just mocking the parents, right? But I think it was the same year she came out with a tolerance anti-bullying campaign. So they're setting it up that they cause you or your children extreme distress, but be tolerant, everybody. Being nice is not necessarily, it's not a personality trait, it's a conditioned response. And I love how you're saying that. I looked up boundaries one time, and all it says is, in boundaries, turn the other cheek or say no, no, thank you, and walk away. But it never says stop taking what's not yours.
Yes.
It doesn't say that in the literature. So then we have all these people who go through for these professional positions. They're not taught. I actually read one about black sheep. I was looking up, why do families make black sheep? And there's multiple reasons, but I looked at the literature from a mental health. I don't know if it was Psychology Today. I don't know what it was. And their theory is that when you came in on planet Earth, you asked for this. One chose to be the good child and you chose to be the black sheep. And I'm like, who comes up with this? Why wouldn't you choose that everybody prospers? So there's a lot of paradigms, I think, in the system that need to be challenged as well. I won't tell you the example I use about what's going on with the young children. When I give that example, people just kind of, okay, you think they came in and asked for what? That their soul agreed to that? No. So we really have an opportunity to challenge a lot of the paradigms. But when you said, I consider that they're underestimating themselves, so that other person comes over here, but it needs to come back to, like, you're gonna have times where one's more important, but basically you got to have an even, basically even relationship, or you've got a doormat and you've got somebody who takes more than they should, or an abuser of whatever context.
And then we also have to, as someone of confidence and having your own choice of belief, you also choose your battles.
Yes.
And as you pointed out, some people, and we were talking about this earlier, but there are those people that it's win, only me win, lose, win, lose, win, lose, because they're not emotionally intelligent.
Yes.
They're not in touch with the, say that brotherhood of man. They think they are. Okay, here's the thing. I had a conversation with someone related to me recently where she was insisting that something was true. And I said, I believe that you believe that's true. No, it is true. I said, I believe you are sure it's true. I don't believe it's true. I have a hard time in believing that's true. And, there's no evidence as to the truth of what she was insisting. And I said, I just have a hard time believing that's true. So, so we had this conversation. I can acknowledge that I believe that someone believes their own truth. And what respect would be is acknowledging that I believe what I believe is true. We are not in the same body. We don't have the same mind. We don't have all the same experiences coming up in the world. So, and our beliefs are either coming from the inside, coming from external forces, coming from TV ads, coming from, YouTube, coming from friends, coming from religion, whatever it is they come from, it incorporates into our belief system. And so I can't argue that someone else is wrong, that they don't believe something. But so this is where choosing our battles.
Yes.
To say, I believe that. But then people will say, no, you have to believe it too, or you're this and you're that and you're this. And I'm like, I believe you believe that.
And you know what's funny? We're starting to realize who doesn't have the maturity, that who is using force and control to get their own way, which makes them howl emotionally. So we're starting to see who has the emotional maturity by how they interact. And nobody's right all the time. And I know you're not implying you are. I don't. I love how you use the word respect in there. They don't have the same respect for you, that you have an opinion. And these are all the imbalances of power.
Yes. Yeah, they're insisting that if you don't agree, whatever it may be, that if you don't agree, and even think back to say, religious persecution, not even think back, it happens now, right? When, say, Christianity would kill people, that weren't Christians, right? Okay, now say move forward, there's religious persecution on many Christians. That, oh, you're a Christian and, so we're going to like burn your church down, or Muslim, or
it's everywhere. First Nations, it's everywhere.
The wars that go on. If you do believe, you can be persecuted. If you don't believe, you can be persecuted, depending on where in the world you live, who's got the power to start a war based on stupid, beliefs. Instead of saying, I believe your belief, and I believe your belief. I believe that you believe, and and respect that. Instead, what happens when people get to the extremes is you must die. Now,
oh, they're totally there, aren't they?
You must die if you don't agree with me. And they honestly believe that they're doing right by their higher, being, their God.
Do you think so? I don't think they're doing right. I think there's no connection. No, I think there's a block.
Well, I think honestly, spiritually, that's true. But in their mental mind, they are doing God's work sometimes. So for example, you think the ones who believe that, the extreme, where what are they called? A few years ago, and it still happens sometimes, where, you would, if you're in a Muslim country, if you're, the very Ayatollah kind of stuff, not so much now, luckily, but not too long ago, the 1980s, there was,
but it's happening here. If this doesn't happen, they think they wish death on people. And I'm like,
yeah, you should die. Insane. I know.
But that should tell us the quality of the people that we're interacting with.
And it's about quality, and again, emotional intelligence, and their fear of not being wrong. That is kind of a.
Isn't that interesting? So that's ego.
Yes, someone can defend to their death that they were right, even though they know they were wrong. They can't allow themselves to say, hey, I made a mistake, I was wrong. And that's why I think it's so important for people to continue to take in information. I might change my mind about something that I'm so sure about someday,
Right.
and I have in the past, but continue to consider the opinions of others and the viewpoints, and then say, take it or leave it, put it on the shelf and think about it later. And
It's funny how many people can't do that. And what you just described to me are sociopaths and psychopaths. And I've tried to explain, some people are so unable to connect that if you call them out on their behavior, they will hurt you because you called them out. Like, they're not ever going to give in. You get away from those people is the best way you
yeah,
can. And if you're in a relationship long term, it's even harder. But some
yes,
people are never going to be in that balance of, and this is where I think the Aquarius energy is going, that we all are interdependent, independent, interdependently. Exactly what you're saying. We can have our thoughts, we can have our own beliefs, providing we don't cause harm to others, and live in more harmony, and but go inside where the real game's happening, right?
yeah,
Connecting. So that's what I see. And it's good that we talked and touched on a little bit of the external forces and how people are reacting. But if you don't do what somebody says and they wish you death,
no,
are you
what's
gonna be inviting them out for dinner next week? I don't think so.
no, yeah, it's
They
like
show the true color.
very much. And this is when, like I say, pick our battles. There
Yes.
are some people you just can't have a conversation with because they are not open to anything but their truth.
Yes. And we both have
And,
learned that the last number of years we had similar views on things.
oh,
And
yeah,
it's okay to let it go. And maybe we pick up something, one part of it again, if it suits us at the time, but we do it for ourselves if it's the right thing,
yes.
and not that we have to bear a cross for society or for any other reason, right?
Right, yeah, it's there's we could be Joan of Arc and end up uh, and I like to maybe trickle out ideas lately more than say information. So I will trickle out ideas like what we're talking about here,
Yes.
hoping that it will at least open up a dialogue, conversation, or respect.
Yes.
Um, so
And that's the one thing, I know we're going over a little longer, but one question I was going to ask you, if in your experiences, whether personal or work, why do you think people are in denial about the abilities we have? What have you encountered with that?
I
Like, I mean,
think
the clairessence, you know what I mean? Clairvoyance,
clairsentient,
the
yes,
intuition, all those things.
and even the power of it, the expansive of our electromagnetic intelligent heart that it can do
Yes.
things. First, I think there's a lack of knowledge, that a lot of this is not talked about unless it's somebody like you and me talking. A lot of people never even heard of the idea that, oh, you mean I can make a choice? I can choose how I'm feeling. I'm not a victim.
Yeah.
We've been a lot of people taught to be a victim, and this is maybe going. I wouldn't call it political, but current events over the years, there seems to be a re-victimhood of certain groups of people. It's like maybe when there's a certain group in the U.S. comes up and starts to get equality, it's reintroduced. Oh, you're a victim. You're a victim. You're a victim. Look how you're victimized. And
So that's not them, that's outside manipulation. Is
yes,
I see that there's so much manipulation making
yeah,
victims be victims, but there's also lack of accountability, that when people are really hurt, like for all the things that have gone on in your country in the last couple of years and nobody's been arrested,
I
if
know.
we don't
Or
deal with
people
the
have been arrested,
abusers,
but they 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 didn't. Yeah,
we don't know. But if we don't hold
yeah, they're not
abusers
this.
accountable, then the victims will never get any form of justice. So I do look at victimhood both sides. Exactly. I've seen people who always come in as the victim, and I'm like, no, you made a choice that probably wasn't in your
Yes.
best interest. You weren't in an environment where you could have been victimized. You put yourself here so that you could try to control it, and it didn't work. That never goes over well either, but
Yeah.
sometimes it's just the truth.
So some people are just trained to be a victim,
Yes.
trained that somebody outside needs to save me. They're going to tell me, they're going to fix this. It's, they don't want to take that personal responsibility to be in charge of themselves. And then of course I brought up, like, organized religion. We are as Western nations, and you mentioned the difference that you know hundreds of years, centuries of training as a society, that we need to go through a mediator to
Right.
be supported, to
To be controlled.
to be controlled, that there's someone else who's going to tell us what to do, when to
Right.
do it, how to do it. So I think this is where, there need to be universal morals, like we
Yes.
talked about, respect, don't harm others. Basically the do unto others as you would have others do unto you. There needs to be personal morals, but there also needs to be personal power.
Yes.
And people don't want to take their own power, like you talked about. Step into it, feel it, be.
Totally.
Yeah.
Because when you do that, other people won't try to overpower you. And the example I'm going to give, I'm sure there's pastors out there who are amazing people. I'm sure there's pastors out there who are
Yes.
nefarious. So just
Yeah.
because they have a title doesn't guarantee their intention.
Right.
But if somebody's making decisions or trying to have you believe something and it's not in your best interest, stand up and just say this, I'll get you later, and exit from that. Because that's the other thing. It's not just the people at the top of structures that have control issues. It could be anybody. It could be family members. That's an
It could be within your
institution.
own family. And most families do have somebody that,
Wants to
calls all the
control.
shots, either by, screaming and yelling, or by the, you know,
Underhanded,
softer, like shield.
passive
And then there's,
aggressive.
and like you talked about the black sheep or something, there's always, the somebody who's maybe not the black sheep, but the weak family member who often is in a codependent relationship with the, one
I
who's,
find them to be the spiritual ones, often the black sheep too. They have abilities when they're younger, and I think the other members can feel it.
yeah.
I can do that in public where I turn around and somebody will just turn and look at me and I think, what? But they can sense something in me that I don't. I just am me. I just don't sense that I'm giving this out. So this is,
Yeah.
we've got so
Yeah.
many topics you and I can talk about with
Oh,
this.
absolutely.
But I think that's where the black sheeps come in too, that they can't handle that child maybe is closer to God. Maybe they have a different light and the other people don't know how to handle it and they're afraid. I'm just looking at different reasons. Like, I don't think there's one or two reasons for a lot of these things. I think there could be multiple reasons. And if we all claim our power back, as you're talking about, and stand in what's right, what makes us feel good. How do I know I'm reading my energy right? How are my emotions mine or somebody else's? That is a great question to ask yourself for
Yes.
anybody. Because if you've got somebody else, is somebody sending you psychic attack? Are you getting programmed from your electronics? Like, there could be so many. I think as it gets crazier as we move forward, we're gonna get it from different directions. So it's gonna be even more important to stand in our own energy field.
As you bring that up, I really want to add, one of the practices I use, and I also use with my clients under hypnosis often when they're feeling lack of personal power, or feeling the victim, or feeling fear, or they're trying to just be happier in general, is, talk about that. Energetically, it actually makes a difference, but also in your mind, the idea of expanding this shield of light around you.
Yes.
When you talk about psychic attacks, and I will say, just expand this shield of beautiful golden light emanating from your heart, all around you, like an egg, just like we do have an aura. They can measure this. They can take a picture of it. So it's not woo-woo, it's not made up. And we can create that, and that nothing can get in that you don't want to come in.
Yes.
You have this wonderful, powerful shield around you, and only positivity can enter that.
Yes.
And
sometimes it takes practice, and sometimes there's a lot of things to let go, but we're all worth it. Get there. It's amazing when we get there, right? And that's a great way to end with this, that you have the right to protect your energy field with your mind.
And even if others are not respecting or coming forward, even if you're silenced or choosing to be silent, because you're picking your battles, just like,
yes.
Okay.
and that's it, right? But we aren't taught how to do that.
Feeling. Yeah, choosing that feeling.
Yes. So this has been wonderful. Do you have anything else you want to leave with the viewers watching today? I'd love to do this again with you. I think we've covered a lot of information, but if I'd love to do more a series with you that we can just get people more curious about going inside. Well, the world looks crazy outside. That could be an illusion. It could be true. We don't know what's what, but I think that would be wonderful. And again, I will put your information where people can find you in the description box.
Thank you.
So that anybody wants an appointment with Desiree, she's amazing. I think we did about an hour or so together, and it's just, I couldn't believe what we got accomplished. So that was wonderful. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Sandy.
Okay, we'll see everybody later. Bye-bye.